So we just had a few chapters that discussed different concepts, different terms and definitions, all with the purpose of establishing a foundation that helps patterns our minds for success with regards to what happens in the real world. We're going to start to move into more tactical scenarios. We're going to start to move into different techniques. And it's very important that we understand how to design purposeful range training. Now, it's 2016. Everybody goes on their iPhone. Everyone goes on social media, and they look at what the newest, sexiest training technique or exercise is. And there's a very big difference between purposeful training that sets you up for success in the real world versus something that looks cool on a 30-second video. What we're starting to see is there's an entire genre of training that has no application for use in the real world. There's guys that might be wearing a lot of Velcro, they might have a lot of different camouflage on, but what they're doing has no real applicability. This is a lot of the overly animated movements, a lot of unnecessary movements into and out of position, and a lot of the stuff that doesn't really prepare you for a mindset with what happens in the real world. Now, mindset's a term that's used a lot, and the way I like to look at it is you take macro tasks and you take micro tasks and you combine them together. So with a micro task, what we're looking at is something like a combat reload. How much trigger finger do you place onto your trigger? Certain skills that should take place at a subconscious level because you've done enough rote exercise to know how to perform that skill set without thinking about it. Now we take those micro level tasks and we apply them to the macro level tasks. This is more of the operational approaches. This is understanding different standard operating procedures, different techniques, and how we navigate different scenarios in the real world based off of different patterns that we learn how to recognize. And this is very important. What we do on the flat range, we are going to mimic in the real world. It's very dangerous when we start to see exercises where students do not know the difference between, hey, this is a specific drill that works a specific fundamental or a specific concept versus letting it just turn into a free fall and you guys got running around doing karate breakdance fighting instead of actually learning how to survive a gunfight. What some of that stuff looks like is guys are not taught simple things like a combat snapshot. So when you go and you proceed into a hostile area, you recognize different patterns. You're looking at different things in the environment that give you cues as to whether or not you should be upping your level of security or be preparing for any kind of close contact. So what we'll see is we'll have guys that have targets set out, they might have a vehicle in place, and they won't be using this vehicle with any kind of regards to what they'd actually do in the real world. And instead, they kind of just do these like spider monkey moves where they bob and weave inside, outside of this vehicle when that's not really representative of what they do in the real world. So what that kind of looks like is this right here. You'll have guys come up to a target and instead of like actually reading their sector of fire, taking the information from that combat snapshot and making a decision, they turn it into a theatrical range drill with a lot of unnecessary movements. You get guys that are just kind of unnecessarily bobbing and weaving, a lot of compressing their gun and uncompressing it when they don't need to. So first thing with that, if I'm just offset from my cover with about an arm's length distance, I don't need to be constantly pushing the gun in and out. The other thing too is I don't need to be trying to manipulate every single piece of ballistic protection on this vehicle. When I'm constantly bobbing and weaving my gun out, that's not doing anything for me. I need to be aware of what's in front of me. So understanding how glass is going to impact my bullets, understand what's going to happen when my target starts to move, and what I need to do, how to combine micro level tasks and macro level tasks so I have the right mindset to navigate this threat. Another way that we see guys get distracted is they'll overly exaggerate their movements and there's no real purpose behind it. Another thing they'll do is they'll add a lot of rituals before or after their exercises, and they'll place more emphasis on these rituals than what the actual learning objective is in the exercises scenario. What this tends to look like is when guys go ahead and snatch their pistol in real quick and they exaggerate looking around to see what's around them. That's really doing nothing for you when, again, you're taking a combat snapshot, you're recognizing patterns, and you can actually scan with your eyes. I truly believe that this move right here is something that is only intended for the internet. That is not intended for the real world. Now I'm saying there's nothing wrong with trying to regain your situational awareness, but let's look at this a different way. Everybody texts and drives on the highway. You look up, you identify patterns, you look down at your phone, you swipe left or right, you come back up, you look to see if anything's changed in the pattern. You scan with your eyes in your sockets, you don't jerk your head left or right. Similarly, if you walked into a bar and you jerked your head left and right, you wouldn't be able to identify the exits, who the biggest guy was that could kick your ass, or who the most attractive person was there that you wanted to talk to. So by jacking our head around unnecessarily like this and focusing on a post-shooting ritual does nothing for preparing our mind for success in the real world. And we always want to be thinking about what happens. Another thing we want to be considering too is what happens at night. A lot of times guys will get distracted by these post-shooting rituals where they'll come out, they'll shoot, they'll look left and right, but we want to think about what happens at night. So if I'm shooting and I've got a handheld light and this is the last data point that I gave the enemy, where are his suspected rounds most likely going to come? Right here. So I'm faking the funk. If I'm trying to regain situational awareness, but I'm not actually doing something that regains situational awareness and identifies if there's been a change in the pattern, I'm going to be overlooking other learning objectives like, hey, if I'm exposed to take a shot, maybe I should re-anchor myself back onto a better piece of ballistic protection. Maybe I should not be so focused on all these things that look cool and purposeful, but have no real application for preparing our minds for use in the real world.